On this second Sunday in the holy season of Lent, for the first reading, we have that incredible, powerful story recorded in the first book of the Bible, Genesis chapter 22, of Abraham being tested by God. And I just love the very beginning, the opening of that story where it says, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham. And Abraham said, Here I am. So that's beautiful. God calling Abraham by name and Abraham saying, Here I am. But then came the test. He said to Abraham, Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains that I shall show you. This is an incredible demand that God was testing Abraham with. The very child that he promised him to in his old age, so that he could be the father of a great nation and have descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky. Now, all of a sudden, God is asking him to sacrifice him. But we know the story that Abraham was faithful and was willing to do it. But as he held his hand to sacrifice his son, the angel of the Lord stopped him. And God then spoke to him and said, Yes, Abraham, because you have not refused to sacrifice your son, your only son, now I know that you are going to be faithful. But it's interesting, those very words that God uses, because we know that in the New Testament, that's precisely what God did. For God so loved the world, as it says in John 3:16, that he gave his only begotten Son, that all who believe in him might not perish but have everlasting life. God actually sacrificed his Son, of course with the willing obedience of the Son to his Father's request. It was a sacrifice he made out of pure love. And of course he knew that it wouldn't result ultimately in death, but rather in the resurrection of the Lord. But all the same, it did involve the suffering of Christ through his passion and his death. And so too in this holy season of Lent, the reason this gospel is here is to challenge each one of us with the same question. God actually asks us to and tests us. Are we willing to sacrifice that which is most dear to us? That's in fact why we are encouraged to make acts of self-denial and to offer up things we like during Lent as a small sign of our willingness to sacrifice to God those things that we like. But also it's a symbol of attachments. You see, when God tests Abraham, he wants to make sure that Abraham is ultimately not attached to anything in this world, including that which is most precious to him, his only son, but was willing to sacrifice all for God. And so too in this season of Lent, we are called to grow in the spirit of detachment, because there are many things in life that can so easily become attached to our hearts. And by the way, attachment comes from the French word attaché, the verb to nail. And so when we are attached to things, it's like we're nailed to them or they're nailed to us. And that limits our freedom. We need to be willing to be detached from all things. It doesn't mean that God will take them away or that we have to give them up completely, but we must have a spirit of detachment so that God alone can be the one possession of our hearts. For he is the one thing necessary and of value above all else. And the great spiritual truth here is the more detached we are from the things of this world, the more we are able to enjoy and experience the fullness of life, even in this world that God has planned for us and wants for us. Whereas the more we are attached to things and the more possessive we are and the more we cling and grasp on the things that in our lives, the more they limit our freedom, the more they enslave and keep us bound. So in this holy season of Lent, I encourage all of you brothers and sisters to offer to God all that is in your heart and life, and to pray for that greater spirit of detachment, as well as to practice forms of detachment by offering up small things and sacrifices to God to show our desire to be truly attached only to Him and His love.